Elon was quick to stay out of the political conversation on this. I think some of his views line up with some of the politics in Texas as well. They're coming out with an ATV. They're working on that. That's likely going to be produced in Texas. They have this Model 2 coming out. So when you think about kind of really sparking demand, I think they're going to have something for everybody down the road. They said that they're going to have a car for every vehicle variant in the future. I mean, they're talking about increasing their AI engineers by 4 to 5x for the next several years. I suspect that most of those are going to be at the new headquarters in Austin.
Hey, I'm Steven and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So in today's video, we're talking about Tesla's Texas takeover, what it means for Texas, and more importantly, what it means for Tesla. So let's get into the video. If you love crypto, stocks, and free stuff, or just want to help out the channel, check out these great offers. BlockFi are launching the world's first Bitcoin rewards credit card. People in the US can earn 1.5% Bitcoin back on every purchase with no annual fee using the BlockFi Bitcoin rewards credit card. Check out the link in the description. And for a limited time, you can get up to $250 in crypto bonuses when funding a new account on BlockFi, where you can use cryptocurrency to earn interest, borrow cash, and buy or sell crypto. If you want your free crypto, use the link in the description. And if you'd like up to 2 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 1 free stock valued up to $300 just for opening an account. And if you make an initial deposit of $5 or more, you'll get a second free stock valued up to $2,000. Seriously. Free stocks? Yes, please. And finally, if you're in Australia, the UK, or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake, also linked in the description. Thanks so much for your support, guys. Let's get back to it.
For investors, I don't know whether tax implications are matter here as much as just a happy and readily available, educated workforce and room to expand and cheaper housing for all your employees. All of those things, you check all those boxes in this move.
You nailed it, Joe. The future, obviously the competitive lines for Tesla is twofold. It's AI engineers. That's why they did AI Day a month ago. They said the applicants for AI engineers went up 100x after that event, and separately manufacturing, which is cheap land and some maybe easier policy regulatory environments. Texas has both of that. Score a big win for Texas here. I guess you should be long Texas.
Just quickly want to chime in here. Gene Munster there saying, I guess you should be long Texas. I'm going to narrow this down a little bit and be a little bit more specific. You should definitely be long Austin, Texas. Now, I've been saying this for over a year since Tesla announced the Austin Gigafactory. Pretty obvious, if Tesla's making the gigantic fucking factory in Austin, what do you think is going to happen to real estate prices in Austin? Anyone? 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 That's right, to the fucking moon. The entire city of Austin has a population of, let's be a little bit generous and call it 1 million people. When Tesla announced the Texas Gigafactory, they told us that there'll be employment for at least 10,000 people, as in 10,000 new jobs out of thin air. Many of them high paying. But spoiler alert, this obviously is just for the initial stages of the Austin factory. The site is gigantic. Tesla's plans and ambition are also equally gigantic, and over the long term, this factory alone will employ tens of thousands of people. They're going to need to live somewhere, and many of these people will be coming from interstate. This is going to put upward pressure on housing prices in Austin for years to come. For what it's worth, I spent a few months in Austin, Texas earlier this year and discovered the insanity of the real estate market at that point in time. I was staying in short-term accommodation, Airbnb, and I was getting absolutely reamed. I mean reamed, paying thousands of dollars per week for a shitbox in the middle of nowhere. Now, why would this be? Well, here's the deal. A lot of people coming from interstate, especially those fleeing the fascist regime of California, with a lot of cash, trying to find housing. And while these folks were trying to find homes, either locking in a long-term rental lease or to actually purchase a place to live in Austin, in the meantime, they were staying in short-term accommodation, creating a huge squeeze. And sure enough, in the last 12 or so months, give or take, house prices, depending on which pocket of Austin you're talking about, have increased anywhere from about 30 to 40%. And to be clear, this isn't just because of Tesla, but mark my words, in the coming decades, Tesla is going to have an outsized hand in turning Austin into one of the biggest boom towns the US has seen this century. And if you'd like to keep me accountable, set a reminder, check back in 2031 and 2041 and tell me what's happened to the median house price in Austin, Texas.
But it plays into this bigger theme about the great reshuffling hitting Silicon Valley. I just want to give you a quick data point. This morning, I went on Zillow and looked at a 5-mile radius around housing prices at their Palo Alto headquarters. That's where their headquarters are. The manufacturing's in Fremont, but the actual where a lot of people work is in Palo Alto. And the average price per home per square foot was $2,000. So a 2,000 square foot home is $4 million. That just simply isn't sustainable. So to your point, Joe, is Austin, the prices are up and to the right. I did not get a chance to look at price per square foot in Austin. I know it's less, and that's just it. They got to bring in great talent. An average AI engineer makes about $200,000 to $250,000 a year. So a $4 million house is just a really hard task to pull off. And Tesla's making the move to accommodate that. And we're going to see other companies do it.
It's got other businesses down there. That probably plays into it as well. Do you think can you talk about Cathie Wood moving to Florida?
Yep, if you guys and girls haven't heard, Cathie Wood officially relocating ARK Invest to Florida. Meanwhile, Tesla relocating their headquarters to Texas. Curiously, about 2 years ago, I decided I wanted to move to the US and began shortlisting states and then cities that I'd like to live in. Funnily enough, the top of my list, the 2 states at the absolute top of my list, Texas and Florida. How interesting. If anyone was wondering what was at the absolute bottom of the list, the 2 cities at the absolute arse end of my list of where I'd least like to live in the US, Portland, Oregon, and New York, New York. Now, if I were to whip out my crystal ball here and give you guys a prediction, this is what it would be. Over the coming years, maybe the next decade or so, we're going to see a lot of people moving to Texas or Florida who previously lived in either California or New York. Just a hunch.
I don't know. We are seeing a lot of relocations based sometimes on the tax situation. Is that reading too much into this, Gene? Or
I think that's probably a step that probably plays into a benefit to recruiting when you say you have lower tax rates, and so I think it does play into it. I think it plays into the broader cost of living question. And, again, we have seen that we can continue to work remotely. We can continue to move in different directions in terms of work and play, education. I think that we're seeing that. And I think the states that are going to benefit the most are ones with lower taxes.
I agree with Munster here. In fact, I'll take it a step further and be a little bit more specific. I think there's going to be 3 key drivers of people's migration within the United States in the coming years. In particular, low cost of living, low taxes, and low amounts of communism, fascism, or totalitarianism.
Elon was quick to stay out of the political conversation on this. I think some of his views line up with some of the politics in Texas as well.
I have a funny feeling that Gene Munster is spot on. Now, why would I say that? Allow me to refresh your memory. Let's rewind to a time when a California county, Alameda County, unlawfully, illegally, forcibly shut down Tesla's factory, despite there being national orders that essential manufacturing businesses were to stay open. Let's see how this played out.
We are a bit worried about not being able to resume production in the Bay Area, and that should be identified as a serious risk. We only have 2 car factories right now, one in Shanghai and one in the Bay Area. And the Bay Area produces the vast majority of our cars. All of S and X, and most of the 3 and all of the Y. So the extension of the shelter in place, or frankly I would call it forcibly imprisoning people in their homes against all their constitutional rights, that in my opinion, and breaking people's freedoms in ways that are horrible and wrong, and not why people came to America or built this country. What the fuck? Excuse me. People, the outrage, it's outrage. But it will cause great harm, not just to Tesla, but to many companies. And while Tesla will weather the storm, there are many small companies that will not. And all everything people have worked for their whole life is being destroyed in real time. And we're going to have many suppliers, and are having many suppliers that are having super hard times, especially the small ones. And it's causing a lot of strife to a lot of people. This is a time to think about the future, and also to ask, is it right to infringe upon people's rights, as what is happening right now? I think the people are going to be very angry about this, and are very angry. It's like if somebody wants to stay in their house, that's great. They should be allowed to stay in their house, and they should not be compelled to leave. But to say that they cannot leave their house, and they will be arrested if they do, this is fascist. This is not democratic. This is not freedom. Give people back their goddamn freedom.
Okay, let's go to the next question, please.
Then, of course, after Elon Musk stands up and provides a voice for those who don't have one on Tesla's earnings call, this infamous tweet from an assemblywoman in California, a Democrat whose name I shan't even mention. F. Elon Musk. Elon responding, message received. And less than 18 months later, Tesla has officially moved their headquarters from California to Texas. And at Tesla's annual meeting, they also unveiled their new belt buckle design, Don't Mess with Tesla. So it does appear that Elon Musk is a fan of freedom and not particularly a fan of fascism. Makes two of us. Who'd have thought?
Andrew wants to get in, but I haven't been able to ask you. I asked Phil LeBeau. Tesla has disrupted so much of the way the business was done in the automobile industry. And I just wonder, is it possible to disrupt the impulse buy, not impulse buy, but wow, I love the look of that new that car, and I like the way they changed it, and I want to get it, because the S, it's been how many years has the S looked the same? And it looked great to start, and everybody's copied it. But does Elon Musk never have to refresh that or update it or get a car that just looks cooler than that? Do people buy Teslas for different reasons now? That's been disrupted as well, Jane?
Does Joe not know that Tesla did actually refresh the Model S with the Plaid?
I think it has. I mean, the S got a mild update with the Plaid version. But to your point, is the substance of it is unchanged for a decade since it began. There is, as far as kind of what they can do to try to motivate other buyers just quickly, is that they have other products coming too. They said this at the shareholder meeting. They're going to be doing a minibus. They kind of made some jokes about a VW minibus. Maybe that means a Caravan. I'm not sure. I know maybe you're a big fan of outdoors, Joe. They're coming out with an ATV. They're working on that. That's likely going to be produced in Texas. They have this Model 2 coming out. So when you think about kind of really sparking demand, I think they're going to have something for everybody down the road. They said that they're going to have a car for every vehicle variant in the future.
Hey, Gene, real quick, in terms of the tax story here, they're going to still pay taxes in California. And if they're growing in the Fremont area, they're going to continue to do that as well. What I was actually going to add, and I appreciate the point, obviously, around the cost of living and whatnot in Texas and the ability for them to have probably cheaper manufacturing. When it comes to AI, you were talking about AI. Do you imagine that most of those engineers will end up in Texas or will actually maintain or stay in California?
I bet most of them will be in Texas. I mean, the ones that they have today are going to probably stick around. Majority of them will probably stick around. They have kids in schools and they'll stay. But I think when you talk about recruiting in this push, I mean, they're talking about increasing their AI engineers by 4 to 5x for the next several years. I suspect that most of those are going to be at the new headquarters in Austin.
Wait, did I miss something? Did Tesla actually say they're intending to increase the number of AI engineers they have by 4 to 5x, or is Gene just making an assumption here? I don't know for sure, but I would strongly assume it'll be a lot more than this. But to Gene's point about the artificial intelligence engineers and where they are likely to be based in the future, Texas makes a hell of a lot of sense. Just imagine that you are an AI engineer, you want to work at the most compelling company, the most exciting company when it comes to artificial intelligence. That would be Tesla, and this is going to be ever more true in the coming years. If you're earning a few $100,000 a year and you're smart enough to be hired by Tesla, you're probably smart enough also to do the math and think, well, hang on a minute. Since I'm going to be working like 24/7 anyway and not have a social life, it doesn't really matter that much where I live. May as well live in Texas, where the cost of living is a fraction of that in California. Don't forget, Tesla's Austin Gigafactory is just about to open. With the fanfare around the Berlin factory, a lot of people seem to be forgetting that the Austin factory is hot on its tail. My prediction is that in just a few years' time, Tesla is going to have many tens of thousands of workers just in Austin alone. And I strongly suspect that Tesla's Texas takeover is going to cause the city of Austin in particular to go through an unprecedented boom. Anyone want to guess where the Tesla bot will be manufactured? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. P.S. Shout out to my Austin friends. Miss you guys and girls. I'll be back soon. And don't forget the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card, where you can earn 1.5% Bitcoin back on every purchase. There's a link in the description. You can also earn up to $250 in crypto bonuses when funding a new account on BlockFi, also linked below. And finally, don't forget your free stocks with WeBull and Stake, also linked in the description. These great offers also help out the channel. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. I read all your comments. P.S. If you're still watching, you're awesome. If you'd like early access, exclusive videos, regular Q&As, our private Discord server and more, consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can keep creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. You can now also become a member of the channel for some exclusive perks. To learn more, click the join button next to subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch store. Either way, the best form of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.